Are you ready to embark on your cost accounting journey? Hi, my name is Mary Beth Goodrich, and that's exactly what we're going to do. You've survived principles of accounting, financial, principles of accounting, managerial. Now we're going to take your knowledge a step further with cost accounting. This is an area I really love because I feel like it helps a company and empowers the company to make the best decisions possible. So this semester, we're going to be looking at and delving into cost accounting and how that can help an organization achieve its objectives. So an introduction to cost accounting is really what we have in this chapter. What are we going to learn today? We're going to look at the difference in relationship between financial management and cost accounting. We'll also look at mission statements. Why is that important to an organizational strategy? Again, we want to take that mission statement and then determine what cost accounting measures we need to take in order to achieve that goal. What is a value chain and what are the major value chain functions? We'll also look at balanced scorecard and what are the parts that make up that balanced scorecard? And why is it important to have ethical behavior? As accountants and also future CPAs and maybe CMAs, why is that ethical behavior so important to the organization? You probably know the answer to that already, but we will be exploring it more. So the first one, financial and management accounting and cost accounting. How are all of these related? You can kind of look at financial accounting, which is kind of more related to your external reporting. You've got management accounting, which is related to running the business. And then you've got cost accounting, which also looks at the product and service costs mainly. So that's going to be a big part of the focus of our course this semester. All of these needs are served typically by a common accounting database. Maybe your company uses an ERP system like SAP, or maybe they use something that isn't as big as that, like a QuickBooks system. If they're somewhere in between, maybe they're using a system like Xero or Sage. So what are the main differences between financial and managerial accounting? Really, the main differences between the two broad topics of financial accounting and management accounting are that financial accounting is really there for external needs. We look at historical data, quantitative data, monetary measurements, and it has to be verifiable. And we have GAAP. We have to make sure that the information is relevant and a faithful representation of the activity of the organization. It's much more formal. Now, some of you may decide to go into that field of more of the financial accounting. You might work in reporting. You might be an auditor that verifies the financial statement records, but management accounting is a little bit different. The primary users for management accounting are internal users in an organization, and the parts of that could be segmented. And again, it's a little bit more of a free-for-all. I don't mean that in a negative way, but again, we don't have GAAP that is something that we're required to use. So we can look at current and forecasted data. We can have a lot more flexibility in the way that we report data. And so there is a combination of formal and informal data happening in managerial accounting or management accounting. So another way to kind of classify organizational costs are upstream costs. These are costs that we kind of invest in, such as research and development and product design. Recently, I got a new vehicle. It's a Toyota Highlander. And I also looked at the Toyota Sequoia, but the Sequoia hadn't been developed or designed differently in several years. And so I really thought that the work going into the Toyota Highlander was better. The product design was better. The kind of dashboard looked nicer and had more meaningful information. And so that went into a lot of the decision that I made to buy a Highlander. So that product design is an upstream cost. Companies decide to invest in those types of decisions. And I guess maybe the Sequoia is going to be the next on the schedule, but these will go into the costs of an organization. So you also have the direct material, direct labor, and overhead. And then downstream costs. These are the ones that are really kind of related more to getting the product to the customer, like the marketing, the distribution, and customer service. Now, we talked about the gap, and the PCAOB is one of the oversight boards for financial. We also have the SEC. So who creates gap? That's the FASB. So what about management accounting? And a little bit of background about me. I actually was a cost accountant in one of my internships. I've had several different internships. I had one in tax, didn't love it. Then I had cost accounting, loved it. And then I also did an internship in internal audit, which is where I ended up finding out my niche in that area. But with management accounting, as we talked about before, it's a little bit flexible. It's a little bit more flexible. But some of you might decide, you know what? I want to work for a company. I want to do the internal reporting. I want to have that flexibility to look at the types of tools that are available. And you might decide, instead of getting a CPA, that you want to get a CMA, which is part of the designation that you can get, or is a designation you can get with the IMA. Statements on Management Accounting. The Institute of Management Accountants comes up with that. They also have cost accounting standards, or the CASB, which are cost accounting standards for defense contractors and federal agencies. So again, we have some kind of structure to the management accounting, but it is a little bit different than the gap that we have from the FASB. So this is one of your learning objectives, and I would encourage you to go through this and try to answer these questions here. Which of these are related to financial accounting and which is related to cost accounting? And again, test out your knowledge. The great thing about the book that you're using is that you will be able to go and look at the answers on this. But before you do that, one of the parts of research that I've done with really learning and integrating the details of a course into yourself is try to answer these questions without referring to what the answer is. And then once you find out the answer, it's going to probably make more sense to you about what that is. But again, think about it. Really think about it after we've talked about some of the differences between financial and cost accounting. So you can kind of see through these. Again, if you didn't stop yourself, that showed you the answers to it. Now, the next learning objective we have is, what's a mission statement? And why is it important? Why is it important to organizational strategy? You want to develop a mission statement that makes sense. It expresses the organization's purpose, what it hopes to accomplish, and how its products and services can meet the customer's needs. It also helps to implement strategy for how the company will achieve goals and objectives that it has. Help us to deploy resources in the way that will best create value, and will recognize that each organization is unique and unique strategies must be developed. You can have two different companies in a certain industry that decide on very different strategies, and both can be successful. And this is the part about cost accounting and really management accounting that I love, is that you can kind of be creative in the way that you deliver and accomplish the management accounting and cost accounting that you're doing in a company. There are factors that influence organizational strategy. So again, what impacts the organizational strategy? Maybe that's organizational structure or core competencies and organizational constraints that are going into the long-term planning. Also, what is our type of culture of the organization and the environmental constraints? For example, one of my first jobs early in my career was with EDS. It became part of HP, but when I first joined the organization, women were required to wear pantyhose. And I don't know if some of you ladies in this course have never even worn pantyhose, but we also, men and women, had to wear their suit jackets down when we went to lunch. So that's part of the corporate culture. More and more, you're seeing that cultures are getting much more relaxed. one of my brothers actually worked in the Silicon Valley, and he'd go to work in shorts and sandals. And sometimes his shirt would be missing a couple of buttons, but they didn't really care because he was doing a good job. So they didn't care how he looked. So again, a lot of that will feed into how the planning will go for a company, and then the short-term planning as well. So what is the main core competency of an organization? What's the critical function or activity providing a competitive advantage? When you think of a company like Walmart, what do you think of? If you think of, low costs, you're probably right. What about Nordstrom? If you think of, quality products, they're going to go above and beyond on customer service. You're probably exactly right on that one too. So what are some of the types of key strategies? As I mentioned before, Walmart with cost leadership. Product and service differentiation strategy will offer superior quality products or unique services. So those are some of the examples that we have. So there's a lot of different strategies that you might have that go into this. What are some of the factors? The economy, the population demographics, competitors, suppliers, resource availability. What are your organization's core competencies? That might be the people that you have. I've had several friends that have worked at Southwest Airlines. They would say that some of the best people in the world work for Southwest Airlines. Product and service quality, innovation. So read through this list and kind of see some of the different strategies that might come into play. What are the core competencies of the organization that you're working for or the organization that you're evaluating? Does that organization have the right resources, the financial resources, the personnel, and the technology to fulfill its vision? So these are the types of things that organizations need to look through and make sure that they have all of this in place for their strategy. So again, take a few moments to look over this and spend some time with it. So the organizational structure has distribution of authority. Authority is the right to use resources to accomplish a task or an objective. Responsibility means that obligation to accomplish a task or achieve an objective. Line managers work directly towards attaining organizational goals, and staff employees will give assistance and advice to line managers. So I have a question for you. What is a chief financial officer? Is a chief financial officer and CFO a staff employee or a line employee or a line manager? If you said line manager, you're exactly right. A CFO works directly towards attaining the organizational goals, and the treasurer and the controller assist them in making sure that that can be carried out. There are 4 common constraints: monetary capital, money, 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 or intellectual capital, also technology, and environmental constraints. So these are some of the things that we have to look at. Maybe we need to look at sustainability. There's been a lot of countries that have come into a lot of criticism because they're not environmentally friendly. And even parts of the United States at different points in history were not very environmentally friendly. I can remember it was a while ago, but Los Angeles had a lot of environmental issues with pollution and whatnot. So these are the types of things that organizations need to be thinking about. So these are some of the companies that I want you to try. To win, we will lead on price, invest to differentiate on access, be competitive on assortment, and deliver a great experience. And then our collections are timeless, updated classics. That's Restoration Hardware. So again, these are things that you could kind of make the course your own. If you're someone, I would encourage you to read the chapters on your own and try to answer these questions. But again, you can look through these lectures too. But I would stop before we get to these reviews and try them out on your own, and then you can listen to the lecture. Excellence is our way of life. It's always been integral. Who's that? Bose. We've had several different products from Bose. Connect people to what is important in their lives through low-cost air travel. Oh, wow. Southwest. Maybe not surprising. Through quality products, superior customer service, and unique opportunities, we aim to be the hub of the cycling community. So this one is Trek. It's actually one of my favorite companies. We have a few bikes from Trek that we absolutely love. So I'm going to go ahead and stop here, and we'll continue on with chapter 1 shortly.